Good evening. I will call to order the City of West Bend Plan Commission meeting for February 2nd and note that we have all commissioners present and accounted for. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll note that we have 5 total items, with the first being approval of the minutes, the regular Plan Commission meetings minutes of January 5th.
Motion approved.
Second.
Thank you. Been a motion second. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to 4 development proposals, A, conditional use permits, and number 1, CU-21-001, public hearing at 6 p.m. for a request for a conditional use permit to allow filling and grading of recently determined non-shore land wetlands located at the northwest corner of the development for a driveway access for a cold storage development located on the east side of South University Drive and approximately 1,600 feet north of West Decorah Road by Jim Emmer. The applicant is Jim Emmer of Emmer Real Estate, and the agent is Jonathan Warden of Quam Engineering. And we'll start off with a presentation by our Business and Development Planner, Jim Rickey. Take it away.
Good evening. So this conditional use request is to allow some grading and filling for portions of wetland located at the northeast or northwest corner of this development, adjacent to South River Road. This is just one component of the development plan that we have that's scheduled on the agenda. So the request is to fill this small portion, about 260 square feet of acres or of wetlands, in order to construct a driveway access from South University Drive into the development. The developer has obtained approval from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and for the approval. So the next step would be the Plan Commission approving the wetland fill as a part of a conditional use permit. The majority of the site will be controlled with erosion measures for silt fence and erosion matting in order to stabilize the site until the grass can grow. All property owners within 200 feet were notified of the public hearing. Staff received 1 general inquiry pertaining to the project itself, and they did not object to the small portion of wetland being filled. So staff would recommend approval with the listed conditions.
Thank you. And this is a public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up. Otherwise, I look for a motion to end it.
Move to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Dolnick and Butchlick. All those in favor of ending the public hearing, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now I'll open it up if there's any questions from the commission for Jim. Max?
Good afternoon, good evening. I just have a quick question. As part of this driveway construction, there was a separate form submitted to the DNR for the installation of the culvert. And when I reviewed the plans, it wasn't clear if that was submitted as part of the permit that was approved, or is it a separate application that is pending and you're still waiting for approval of that? Do you know? Would you know?
And Jim, I know who you are, but if you could state your name and address.
Yep, Jim Emmer, 4508 Dollar Drive, West Bend, Wisconsin. Quam Engineering, I believe, has submitted all the necessary applications to the DNR. So as far as I know, everything is in line for it.
Sure. Yes, I understand that. And I saw that they submitted for the filling of the wetland, and they submitted a separate document for the installation of the culvert. And what I'm asking is that, were those submitted at the same time and then the DNR approval covers everything, or is the DNR approval for the wetlands only, the fill of the wetlands only, and the culvert approval will come separately? It wasn't clear in the letter from the DNR. They say they approved for the filling of the wetland and they didn't mention the culvert. So I'm trying to figure out if we're still waiting for something from the DNR.
Yeah, to my knowledge, Max, everything was all-inclusive with the application, but I have not heard anything different to this point.
Okay. Maybe I'll give Kevin a call. Thank you.
Sure, yep.
Thanks. Any other questions? If not, we are looking for approval of the conditional use permit.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 4 comments.
Thank you. Second. Schmidt and Newman. If there's no other comments, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And moving on to B, certified survey maps, number 1, CSM-20-019, one lot certified survey map located on the east side of South University Drive and approximately 1,600 feet north of West Decorah Road by Jim Emmer. The applicant is Jim Emmer of Legend Storage LLC, and the agent is Kevin Parrish of Quam Engineering. Jim.
Thank you. So, this land division is a part of the development proposal that we have before us. The purpose of this certified survey map is to combine the 2 parcels into one. The developer acquired a 1/4 acre at that northwest corner from the city and the county from the joint owned lands there. This acquisition was to provide access to the site from University Drive, since the property abuts US Highway 45, which is a limited access highway. So the purpose of this is just to combine these 2 properties into one to eliminate the property lines between the 2 uses. The property is zoned, for the majority of it is zoned M1. There is a small portion of that 1/4 acre that is still zoned I1. So as a cleanup, we'll just need to do a zoning amendment to make everything uniform as the M1 light industrial use for the development. Adequate right-of-way is provided for both Highway 45 and for University Drive. And staff would recommend that the CSM be revised to address technical corrections, and then also to place the no access restriction along that east line against the Highway 45 right-of-way.
Sounds good. So you are looking for approval of the CSM just with conditions, correct? Okay. I'll look for that motion.
Motion approved. Second.
Thank you, Starl Dolnick. And are there any questions for Jim? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then C, site plans 1 SP-20-025, site plan for 9 self-storage buildings located on the east side of South University Drive and north approximately 1,600 feet north of West Decorah Road. The applicant is once again Jim Emmer of Legend Storage LLC, and the agent is Kevin Parrish of Quam Engineering. Jim.
Thank you. So this is the actual site plan approval for consideration for the 9 storage buildings located on the east side of South University Drive. The 6.5 acre site is zoned M1, which is the light industrial. I'm sorry, there was a typo in there. It should be light industrial, not heavy industrial. The developer is proposing to construct 4 self-storage buildings, 2 boat and RV storage buildings, and 3 temperature-controlled self-storage buildings for a total of the 9 buildings. Access to this site will be from South University Drive. 30 to 50 foot wide drive aisles are proposed throughout the development. This would help accommodate for vehicles parked parallel to the buildings for unloading, and also for bypassing traffic through the development for those areas that are parked. Curbing is identified for portions of the site. The developer was asking for an exception to eliminate curbings in the northwest corner of the development, along the eastern edge, and also at the southeast corner of the development. After further review, staff feels that the curbing should continue throughout, and would recommend to incorporate the curbing throughout the site in order to maintain pavement edges, and prevent vehicles from driving off those edges and creating an erosion issue for mud for those areas that are disturbed. No sanitary sewer is proposed here, since sewer is not available within the area. The developer is proposing to put a small holding tank in just west of the first building off of the drive area for a small office. They are also proposing to provide a water lateral to that area for a slop sink and service for facilities within the building. Private fire hydrants will be needed throughout the site in accordance with the fire department for fire requirements for fire protection. Stormwater management plan has been submitted and is currently being reviewed, and the grades for the site have been generally designed to drain to the east, and then from there it'll be picked up in swales and drained south to the stormwater pond that is provided. The only site lighting provided throughout the site is the building lighting on the buildings. Landscaping for the site is fairly minimal due to the grades and the type of pattern that we have for the building placements. The developer is also proposing 2 ground signs, a 12 square foot ground sign along South University Drive. That location is conforming, and so is the sign. Staff would just recommend that the sign base be provided for that to comply with our urban design standards instead of the 2 poles. The second sign is also at the southeast corner of the site. This is the main significant sign for the development along Highway 45. The developer is proposing a 12 by 24 sign, each panel. It's kind of a wedge-shaped sign with an overall height of 27 feet. Staff would recommend, though, that the sign be revised to be reduced to an overall height of maximum of 22 feet in accordance with the code, and also reduced down to 250 square feet. Staff felt that as a compromise for the site, given the amount of buildings and the square footage of the buildings, that it seemed reasonable to have 250 square foot max versus the 100 square foot max. And staff would recommend, if the Plan Commission feels it appropriate, to go with those standards. The building elevations will consist of a pewter-colored wall panel, a dark blue-colored door, and then a charcoal-colored mortarless brick along the bottom edge, 4-foot bottom edge of the building, for those areas that face the roadway that can be seen from the roadway. And then a white roof is also proposed. Staff feels that these architectural elevations are in compliance with the urban design standards. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the listed conditions.
Thank you, and I will look for that approval. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Nolik and Schmidt. Any questions for Jim?
I did have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
The staff recommendation about the signage is not in the conditions. It just says submission approval of a ground sign permit and wall sign permits prior to installation, but it doesn't refer to the reductions that you were suggesting.
Yeah, because I didn't put it in as a condition because the reductions that I was asking for are in the code already. So
Okay.
that we would, those reductions would make the sign compliant to the sign code
Okay.
and to the urban design standards. But if the commission feels more, feels better or feels that it's warranted to have it in the conditions, we could add that in there too.
Well, they'd have to come back for an exception otherwise.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's fine.
Sounds good. Jim, you had a comment?
Yes, so when we initially sat down with the planning, we talked a little bit about the curbing. And I was asking or wondering if the council would consider on the east end of it, all the water drains to the east, and there's a swell along the whole east line. So the water would come off the blacktop and then go right into the swell. I was asking if we could consider not having a curb along that east end. It would make it easier to plow the snow off, and all the water goes off anyway right into the swell.
I guess I'll start with, does staff have an opinion one way or another on that?
Typically, we would have curbing throughout. I mean, we've done it in our other developments. The commission does have the ability to grant the exception if they feel it warranted. From stormwater standpoint, don't know if there's a real benefit of having a sheet flow or just doing let out structures through the, through the curb faces down into that swale. There was comment in regards during staff review from engineering, especially on that southeast corner where the pond is, of cars sliding off or possibly running off that edge or running off the edge and tearing up that edge. So it's I don't know
Yes.
what the full function of stormwater would be for that, if it's a benefit to have the curbing versus not having the curbing.
Obviously, the curbing, even if placed along the east side, would need some openings for the water to actually flow into that swale that Mr. Emmer described earlier. So it would not be like solid line of curbing. We would probably have some openings for stormwater to go. Would it be better stormwater-wise to have an full open line and have the water sheet flow instead of directing it to smaller opening and creating a concentrated area of flow that will be more susceptible of erosion? I would say yes. So the curbing, not having the curbing would be more beneficial for handling the stormwater. That's a fact. We did have some concern with vehicles then driving to that edge and kind of falling into the ditch. I don't know if that could be prevented with other methods. I don't want to steer you in any direction, but if you put a few driveway sticks like we see or whatever to indicate the edge, then I would not have a problem with not having the curb there, knowing that it helps the stormwater. My opinion.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a rural area there too. I mean, University Drive, as we know, is not curbed at this point. Someday it probably will be. But I think overall, for more of the drainage aspect, I think that it would be better not having the curb there and having, concentrated runoff, as you mentioned, Max. So, thank you.
I don't know if the gravel shoulder gives the same visual to know that the edge of pavement is there. If I'm driving in my vehicle and I'm getting close to the edge, do I really see the gravel shoulder? I might feel it, like it might prevent erosion because it's a hard surface and I might feel that I'm falling. So I guess so. I think that those sticks that I mentioned would be more of a something that somebody sitting in their driver's seat could
Physical
identify.
marker.
Yeah,
Right.
those markers, driveway markers. Thank you. I think that would be better. I guess I don't feel strongly against your suggestion of the gravel shoulder to avoid erosion of the tires getting off the pavement and onto the grass either. So, but I guess the question was about not having the curb there.
Correct,
I
yes.
guess, in my opinion, it's more favorable for stormwater, so I would not be totally opposed to that.
Okay.
I will point out our past experiences where we have a gravel edge is the gravel edge will continue to grow every time you plow the pavement and push that direction. It will continue to grow into that swale. Also, the gravel will end up being used as pavement by people driving there rather than keeping people off the landscape areas. So I would strongly recommend an alternative way. If we're not going to require the curb and gutter there, I would require some other form of edge protection. And if that's as simple as markers, I think that would be a better route.
Okay.
Bernie, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with the snow. You can only push so far with curbing. I I would have to agree that it'd be a lot easier for moving snow that way.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. I agree with Max. I think no curb and markings for the edge make a lot more sense.
Just so I can get a picture on the east side here, it does look like there's a chain link fence, correct? And but is the east side what you were talking about with the drainage issues?
Yes.
So how close is that chain link fence to the curb?
That setback is probably 25 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. So it does look like we have approval in a second, so I guess I'd be looking for adding that additional condition. Would that be correct, Jim?
You would have to
Yeah, we have to
amend your
That's what I'm
conditions to eliminate number 5.
Does anyone want to make that motion, or Alderman Dolnick, if you want to change yours?
So I would replace number 5 with revision of the site plan to provide steel markers.
I would say to provide curb and gutter around the pavement as indicated, except on the eastern edge. And instead of having the curb on that eastern edge, just have those driveway markers there.
Right, what Max said.
Okay, got it. And Commissioner Schmidt, you want to second that? Okay.
Second that, what Max said.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other additions or anything? Seeing none, I will call for a vote with for approval of the site plan with those conditions. All those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And thanks, Jim, for jumping through all the hoops and choosing to invest here in West Bend. Thank you. And we'll move on to D, discussion items. And these are both in tandem, so if it's okay, I'll just read them both off. First is to set a public hearing for amending boundaries and approving a project plan amendment for Tax Incremental Finance District 10 by the Department of Development. The applicant and the agent are both the City of West Bend. And number 2, to set the public hearing for the project plan for Tax Incremental Finance District number 15 by the Department of Development and the City of West Bend as well.
Mr.
And for
Mayor?
both these, we're going to have Mark Petrovich.
Mr.
take
Mayor,
it.
you
Sorry.
omitted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
the
miss?
site plan.
I was all excited. All right, I'll go back to number 2. Site plan, SP-21-001, Cedar Community Architectural Building, elevation changes to the 2-family homes for the independent senior living within the northern portion of the property at 113 Cedar Ridge Drive by Benevolent Corporation Cedar Community. The applicant is them, and the agent is Eric Schodel of Plunkett Rashek Architects, LLP. Jim.
Thank you. So back in August of 2019, the Plan Commission approved a site plan for a 2-family PUD located in the northern portion of the Cedar Campus site. Cedar Campus has submitted revisions for the architectural building elevations and some minor changes to the site plan for the southern, or for the buildings on the south side of the private drive that was created for this PUD. So the original proposal had the garages centered in the building, and the architectural materials consisted of hardy plank, cedar mill lap siding, cultured stone, and dimensional shingles. Some minor field changes were done at the time of the construction, and the siding was changed over to a vinyl siding. The plans that are proposed for the south side have been revised to incorporate those changes that were done in the field with the vinyl siding. They're also continuing with the cultured stone and the dimensional shingles for those buildings. The plans themselves have been changed to put, instead of having the garages to the inside of the building, they have them now on the outside of the building, giving it a completely different change and look for that development for the south side. The rear elevations have also been revised to incorporate a covered porch off the main level. And then the lower levels that are exposed have a covered patio with access to the lower area. These changes constitute a significant change which would require Plan Commission reapproval. So we're asking the commission to review this new proposal, and if they find the proposal to be acceptable, to give an approval for the remaining construction of these buildings on the south side with the new architectural look.
Thank you. So we'll be looking for approval of site plan with those conditions. I'll wait for the motion first, and then we can have discussion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve, but with a condition, because the change in the grades for this project have caused the applicant to change the drainage patterns, and they need to make some modifications to their best management practices as well. And they did submit an amendment to their existing stormwater management permit. It's under review, and so I would make the motion to approve with the condition that we need to have an approval of the amendment to stormwater management permit W20-07 prior to construction on this site.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dolnick. Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Dolnick?
Have these modifications already been done? Or are they waiting for approval?
No, they're waiting for the approval. Besides the only thing that was done, again, the field modification was the siding. It went from the hardy plank to a vinyl siding. From a distance, it looks the same as what a hardy plank would. It's just that the material itself is. But none of the buildings on the south side have been constructed yet, pending this approval.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move on to discussion items, and I'm not going to read all that again. So go ahead, Mark.
That's fine. We're asking you for two actions tonight. The first one is to set a public hearing for amending the project plan and boundaries of tax incremental financing district number 10. The boundaries and the area to be subtracted from it are shown on the map that is in your packet. The reason for this is those 4 parcels are actually associated more with the development on the west side of the river, the former brewery site. And as part of that development, the improvements would need to be paid for out of that district, and that this way the value of those improvements by moving out of 10 into 15 would be paid for by TID 15. But the process that's required is to formally amend tax incremental district number 10 to do a physical subtraction, which means a new project plan, which means we start the whole process over for 10. So this is the first step of that, setting a public hearing for 10. We'd ask that you set that for March 2nd, 2021.
Sounds good. I will look for that motion.
A second.
Thank you, Fleischman
I'll be
Stern.
abstaining from this.
Yep, thank you. With Schmidt abstaining. Sounds good. Any questions for Mark? Seeing none, all those in favor of setting the public hearing for TIF District 10, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we'll need a motion to set the public hearing for TIF District 15.
Yep. And again, we had asked you to set the public hearing previously. That was delayed because of changes to the site plan and the attendant changes to the project plan for the district. We need the project plan before we can actually hold the public hearing. So we're asking this also be set for March 2nd, 2021.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you. Dolnick and Fleischman. We'll start with, Schmidt abstaining. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Having no further business for the Plan Commission, I'll adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a good night.